I had, I suppose, various points in when I was younger, moments of trauma. A really big moment for me was losing my mum when I was 15. I also experienced homelessness when I was in my early 20s. And particularly at that point in time when I was homeless, I felt like almost invisible. And it was really then that I felt like I didn't have a purpose because I was like, I felt like, oh, well, nobody sees me. At that moment, I kind of recognized, well, it's transforming my own pain, it's transmuting that pain into something good. And then I realized, well, now I can do that for myself. I can do that for other people as well.
Welcome to the Soul Awakening Academy podcast series. I'm your host, Anne-Marie Mayers, and founder of Soul Awakening Academy. The stories you'll hear are from our master spiritual life coaches and energy healers, women who have gone to the brink of burnout and found the spark within themselves to turn their pain into their greatest purpose. So sit back, relax, maybe grab a pen and a piece of paper as we share their vulnerable stories of adversity to strength, and maybe you'll take some practical skills and strategies you can implement in your life now. And for a thank you, if you want to tap into your unique spiritual purpose, join the 3-part masterclass series below and let me help you find your level of greatness. All right, so welcome, T, my gorgeous friend.
Thank
It's
you.
so lovely to have you here. So I'll introduce you, but just to kind of let everybody know, I'm Anne-Marie, owner of Soul Awakening Academy, and this is Dr. How do you like people to pronounce your name? Do you like the full name?
Well, funnily enough, I'm always although I earned the doctor bit of my PhD, I'm always like, you can just call me Tegan. It's fine.
No, no, it's Dr. Tegan Brierly-Sollis. Sollis,
Yeah,
that's right, isn't it?
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're very highly acclaimed. So we'll tell people all about what you do and how you help people. But you first came to the Soul Awakening Academy, what, about 2 years ago? 3 years
Oh,
ago?
yeah.
Yeah. And as soon as we had a conversation, because you took our chakra alchemy course and you now use that, don't you, with your treatments that you offer?
I do.
And when you told me about who you are, what you do, what your background is, instantly, like the lights just went on inside. And I was like, wow, this girl is going to be doing something for Soul Awakening Academy, because your skill set was just amazing to me. It was inspiring. And you have gone on and we've worked together and you've taught through the Soul Awakening Academy, and you're part of our trauma-informed spiritual facilitator course, which is amazing. And we'll go on to do many more things together. So let me just share and tell people who you are and what you do, and then we'll get into your story. So you chose the theme pain to purpose for the theme for International Women's Day, and we'll share a little bit about why you chose that. But just for the sake of the readers, so we have this amazing, inspiring lady with us, Dr. Tegan Brierly-Sollis, and she's a holistic practitioner and the owner of Elm Chanted Holistic Therapies. And Elm Chanted offers a range of treatments from deep tissue and trigger point massage, holistic massages, and energy treatments. Tegan is an academic lecturer in policing, criminology, and trauma-informed approaches, and holds a PhD in criminal justice, which explored trauma and trauma-informed approaches. Tegan created a concept during her PhD to help with the understanding of trauma and trauma-informed practice, which has since been turned into an animation and used nationally across training programs. Wow, that's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what made you choose the theme from pain to purpose? Tell us a bit about your backstory and what's kind of led you here.
Well, I thought Pain to Purpose one was really like a really interesting theme. And the reason it resonated so much with me is because of my background, and I will explain a little bit more. I sort of felt like there was quite a few moments in my life where I didn't feel like I did have a purpose. I just felt like I was going to be floating through life without any purpose, without real peace.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that baseline of peace. And I had kind of, I suppose, various points in when I was younger, moments of trauma. A really big moment for me was losing my mum when I was 15, and that kind of snowballed lots of events, really, really difficult events that I went through. And I also experienced homelessness when I was in my early 20s. And particularly at that point in time when I was homeless, I felt like almost invisible to society. And it was really then that I felt like I didn't have a purpose, because I was like, I felt like, oh well, nobody sees me, nobody recognizes me as a human being. Um, and I didn't recognize myself either. I didn't recognize that I had any of I didn't recognize there was anything that I could give to anybody. I didn't believe that I had anything worth talking about, anything worth sharing. I had no belief in myself. And then I was really fortunate because I met some amazing people, and what that did for me is it kind of elevated me into a life where I actually did feel like I had a purpose, and I did feel like I could I wouldn't say believe in myself straight away, because that was a real lesson that took time for me. But what I found these people who believed in me before I had to believe in myself. And it was then that I started to recognize, actually I do have a purpose in this life. And for me, that purpose was transforming pain. And at that moment I kind of recognized, well, it's transforming my own pain, it's transmuting that pain into something good. And then I realized, well, now I can do that for myself, I can do that for other people as well. That purpose was transforming pain. And at that moment I kind of recognized, well, it's transforming my own pain, it's transmuting that pain into something good. And then I realized, well, now I can do that for myself, I can do that for other people as well. So that's really where I feel like my purpose is, and I feel like my purpose is in healing and guiding people. But I feel like my purpose is also just to live and have a good life, and have a life that I love and appreciate every single day.
Oh, I totally am with you there, and I second that. Like, having a purpose, yeah, it's amazing, but how do we weave that into having a good life as well? We
Yeah,
can get so lost when we're searching for this purpose, it's like searching for a needle in a haystack, and we can drive ourselves like slightly insane trying to figure it out every day. And I think sometimes we attach finding our purpose onto something that's not really about the purpose, and
absolutely.
living a good life is an experience, isn't it? Just as
Yeah,
living a purposeful life is, but sometimes we can think the only thing is to find your purpose and to live that. And it can become quite stressful, I've found. And now, like you say, it's finding that balance. Okay, I feel like this is my purpose because it brings me meaning and joy, but actually living life as well and all the good stuff in life, and that's unique to us all.
yeah.
Live that. What would you define for you is the definition of success?
Oh, that's a great question. So I used to think that success was what I could achieve, what qualifications I had. And I used to be really like, oh, I need to do this. I need to have this against my name. I need to have this, this, and this. And then I'll be successful, and then I'll be happy. But then what I realized was that actually I was attributing success to all external factors,
Yeah.
when for me, true success comes from within. And to be successful is being authentic. So if I'm my authentic self, then I will be successful, because that is what I'm here on this earth to do. And there's nobody that can be me more than I can. And the same with everybody else. And if we had that as a measure of success, I feel like we would feel much happier, because we would automatically align with goals that we have. If we're a true authentic self, we would recognize, actually I'm really interested in this, I'm really interested in that, and I can start looking into that more deeply, rather than thinking, society says this is what's successful, so I need to go and do this, and I need to do that, and I need to have this by the time I'm, whatever age. And I think that ties us down, doesn't it? And it makes us, yeah, it makes us stressed and feel like we are only successful if we achieve, but actually we are successful just being us.
Yeah, exactly. And I second that completely. All the women I've interviewed so far, and myself included, and I think it is a self-esteem thing, or it's a confidence. We're trying to find our identity. It can, we probably fall into the same sort of age when it's happening to us, but we are identifying outside of ourselves. And because maybe we're just not self-aware at that point in time, that we don't realize it's a wounding, an emotional wound that actually we're trying to fix. And we do believe that having this, that, and the other will fill the empty gap. I know I did.
Yeah.
And, you're just chasing your tail, you're on the hedonistic trap, and it's so disappointing and painful when you get that thing and then you're right back to square one again, feeling empty inside. So it's like, oh my God, I worked so hard for that and actually still feel the same. Oh,
Chasing
well,
the next thing then, isn't it?
over there.
Mm.
Yeah, and the energy it takes when a lot of people, the clients I work with, the students that come through the academy, the people who want to find their purpose, a lot of them who kind of go through, the emotional healing programs as clients back in the day, they were the ones that wanted to find their true self. And it's like, well, what's the definition of a true self?
Mhm.
Really, like, you go, "Oh," you might go, "Okay, I wanna try it." Well, what does that mean? What do you mean you're not your true how do you know you're not your true self? And quite often, it's because we've been so ingrained, with the trauma, that
Absolutely.
we don't know what it is that we actually want. Ross.
No, no. We find it really difficult to recognize what what it is that we need, and we I think as well we find it difficult to actually accept that we're worthy of taking up space.
Oh my
We
God.
were Oh, massively.
Oh.
Massively. And we're worthy of that. And I think it's so inspiring because, like, and you must meet so many people as well, who desperately want to save the world. That's what everyone,
Yeah,
a lot of us have in common. We desperately want to save the world, and I always think that's such a wonderful thing to want to do, and that's such a wonderful thing to almost have as a purpose as well. But I also think that it's okay if you end up saving one person, and it's
sure.
actually okay if that person is you.
Oh, 100%. It has to be you first. Like, I completely hear what you're saying then. Loads of what you just said landed with me. That identity piece, that taking up space. I mean, I don't know about you, but in your body, in my body, I still do it now, but not so much because I'm aware. But taking up space was such a big thing. Like, I would crease my body and bend my body up so much so somebody else could take the space. Do you know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
I'd get backache and I'd be in pain, and it was just like I just couldn't take up my own space. I mean, how crazy is that? But so many people have that identity wound.
They do, and it's all trauma related, typically, but with the body as well, because it morphs into those physical
Yeah.
aspects and those physical tissues. And I also noticed it with myself, particularly when um I was getting trains, and I would sit in a train seat and I would tuck myself
When you're
in
small.
in the corner, and like I would really push myself against the window. And then one day I kind of realized what I was doing, and I was like, why am I doing this? Because it's so uncomfortable, and you do get, you get backache, and you're like all pushed in and stuff like that. And so I just sat for a moment and I just relaxed into the seat, and I was like, this is so much better. And we're all worthy of that. We're all worthy to take that space.
Yes, because whose space is it?
Precisely. It's
Yeah.
our
It's our space. And actually, what it is a boundary.
Yeah,
And what we're doing is when we have that like identity wound and it's doing those things to us, then our boundaries are so slim if we have any at all. They
yeah,
are tiny because if we can't take up and own our boundary, which is our space, and we're just inviting people into it. Oh, sorry, go on, you can have my space. It's okay, it's my space, it's all right, you can have it. Then our boundaries are literally on the floor. And again, it's all trauma related, it's all emotional related. And when you said about your pain earlier, were you referring to emotional pain?
Yeah, yeah. So absolutely emotional pain. And it, it does all hold in the body, and it holds there as in physical ways, but also in emotional ways and trauma memories,
Sure.
uh, and things like that. And I think the lacking of boundaries is a really um key aspect with trauma, because boundaries are safe, aren't they?
Mhm.
And we all like boundaries because they keep us safe, and they give us more information. And anybody who's experienced trauma, and particularly chaos in life,
Mhm.
where there's a lack of information or a lack of boundaries, we start to feel unsafe.
Yes.
So we need as much information as possible, as much information around those boundaries and how they work, and then we start feeling safe. And when we feel safe, oh, we can breathe.
I find when I'm safe, yeah, I hear you. And what that's landing with me is about relationships and attachment styles. Find for me finding safety. So for me, I'm like, okay, what's the deal? Like, what's the plan? What give me the clarity? Do you know what I mean? And that makes me so I'm always, they say we're always kind of safety seeking. I'm always safety seeking in that way because I can go, okay, I get it. I'm clear. I'm not going to be sat here in an anxious state, having a script run that says that person's abandoned me.
Yeah,
It's like always playing out these wounds, these triggers, the trauma. It's always there on standby.
yeah,
But it's like when you do the work, with all your kind of trauma training and all the holistic healing you do now, you can still run parallel with your trauma system, which basically your nervous system, which is always going to be designed to keep you safe. But on the other part of that, we also have this higher level of brain system that's open, creative, intuitive, and can see a bigger version. And we can work, run alongside our nervous system and say, no, it's okay, and soothe yourself. But you need to have awareness to do that.
you
So
do.
tell us about the work that you do and the impact that you're making with your clients.
Well, what I do, so I'll tell you about I think it would be really nice to tell you about the chakra treatments,
Mm.
alchemy treatments that I offer. I have got a package offer where I combine massage with chakra alchemy as well, which is lovely. It's such a beautiful treatment. Um, but really, what I kind of say to my clients who come in is, I'm here as a guide,
Yeah.
because you're actually the one that's doing the healing. I'm just guiding you on the journey, and that's such a privilege. And it's such a privilege that I'm trusted in that position for these people as well. And what I see is just, it's wonderful to see in that treatment room. It's like it's almost like magic, is what I would say, because you each client is different. So what we do is we tailor the um the program and the treatment for each client. And the wonderful thing is that I mean, they'll say, like, okay, what can I expect from the treatment? So I can tell them up to a point, but then I say, but this is your treatment, this is your individual treatment. So as a person, you might smell things, for example, or see things, or see colors, or feel a sensation in your body, and that is your journey. That's your journey to on your own healing path. And quite often as well, what I found is that the chakra treatments are really beneficial for a wide range of issues that people might have. So they'll come in for a treatment for maybe general stress, but then maybe I'll see them a few months later, and they'll come in for a treatment, and it might be around grief. And the treatment is a different style. So even though it's the same person, actually, um the treatment feels different, because we might be working more of the heart chakra. And so it's yeah, it's just wonderful to see. And such a beautiful treatment, such a beautiful treatment that more and more people are wanting, because I think there's a real shift in recognizing how important healing is, and how we are kind of on a healing journey for our whole lives, because we have so much healing that we do, and then things might crop up that then think, oh, well, that's bothered me, I don't know why. So when we reflect, if, as you said earlier, when we know that, and we have the capacity to self-soothe, what we can then do is take a moment and just get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and thinking, why is this happening now? What lesson can I take from this? What more healing do I need in order to grow, and to learn from this?
100%. And again, that's just landed with me massively because always I get insights into my triggers and I'm going, wow. And now I can go, wow, thanks for that. Thanks for showing me that. And thanks for the insight. Or I'll go, wow, that's where that came. It's like quite wow. It's wow now rather than, oh, I feel so bad about that. I'm such a victim. That was terrible. That shouldn't have happened to me. And the chaos that your system goes into when you start to relive memories and you put yourself in victim mode again. When you can start to shift out of that, and it doesn't happen overnight, it takes a lot of work, doesn't it? It takes a lot of work to get to the point where you can go, okay, or even go, where does this pattern stem from?
Yeah,
Show me. And I think sometimes people on this path, but probably because of the way that the kind of language has gone in the past so much is like, we can get rid of limiting beliefs. We can get rid of this. If you work on the mother wound, you'll get rid of it type of thing. And I don't believe that we can ever really get rid of our kind of trauma experiences, because the things that happen to us that we can't um evaporate out of our system. But what we can do is react and see them differently, take different perspective, take different views, and that comes through knowledge and practice, learning as much as you can, like you have, and now teaching it about the
yeah,
mind and body.
absolutely. And what you said really resonated there, because you mentioned about a wound, and we don't just get rid of it. And so what happens is, it's like a wound on our body. Just because we heal from it, we might still have that scarring there,
Yes.
and it still happened to us.
Mhm.
It's still, we still remember that happened to us, or we'll still have physical evidence or emotional evidence that has happened to us.
Mhm.
But we learn from that, and we grow from that.
Yeah,
And I suppose we can only do that if we're in the right circumstances too. So if we've got the right people around us, if we're in a safe environment that allows us to start that healing journey, that's when it can really start making an impact on our lives.
that's right. And like when you say about the scar and the wounding, yeah, it's gone. The events happened, the skin is healed, but it could be sore to touch. It could be, not
Yeah,
likely to look at. It's still there, and people could trigger it. What's that on your arm? Touch it, it hurt. Everything is there, and quite often I hear, "Oh, I didn't realize that was going to come up. I can't believe that I still feel this way, or I've been triggered there. I've worked so much on it." I think you can work all you can like on it, but it's still going to be there. And every time you think about it, will be from a different angle, or a
yeah,
trigger comes up and it's from a completely different angle. So you can spend your whole life focusing on this one event, this one trauma, and you think you've worked through it. But if you get triggered again, it's going to happen again. Your body it does never going to forget what happened. And these triggers and these safety cues that we've now got in our brain and our body, which are designed to do what they do, they're going to signal to you that, well, that's a representation of that. And it'll come in at different ways. So people like healers and things, they can beat themselves up when they get triggered again. But I
yeah.
think it's just another way of looking at it. It's just another way of understanding yourself in a way.
It is, because our emotional development center within our brains I mean, it's a bit of neuroscience, but not too much. But
Mm.
it kind of overdevelops, because there's a misconception actually that when a child in particular experiences trauma, that they'll have underdeveloped areas within the brain, but actually it's about that overdevelopment, because then um, we become over responsive to situations, which then is therefore where those triggers come in. So an example of a really recent trigger for me actually is I really struggle with the housing thing, because I had
Yeah.
experienced homelessness. If ever I get anything around, like, you know, anything housing related, basically, even if something breaks in the house, I'm like, oh no, and it comes up, and now, rather than thinking, oh, I shouldn't be feeling that way, I treat myself really nicely, and I'm like, no, it's okay. We can sort it out, but there's a reason why you feel the way that you do, and it's because of what you've experienced, because that lack of stability and safety was really challenging, and you've got that now, and you're never going to be in that situation again. But there's a reason why you're still reacting to the way that you do, because you haven't forgotten.
Exactly, and that baseline fear can have so many different belief statements attached to it. So, a couple of years ago, you might have never have thought if someone said to you, "Oh gosh, T, do you think if you break something in the house, you're gonna get triggered?" You might go, "No," because that's got nothing to do with the kind of bigger theme of being made homeless. You might think, "No," because it's just, consciously, "No, it's just rational. Of course you break things in the house." But when
Yeah.
it happens, that body it takes you right back to root survival stuff again. And you can never predict what your triggers are going to be. You can only be aware of them either in the moment or after the event, or if it's helpful, yeah, before. But there's some opportunity for us all when it's happened and when we've been triggered to reflect and to
Ab-
figure things out for ourselves.
yeah, absolutely. And it's that space, isn't it?
Yeah.
That space that we are, as I say, just comfortable with being uncomfortable, feel how it feels in our body, and just take that time to recognize and think, well, what could this be about? And what can I do to help myself in this moment? What self-soothing mechanism can I do to help with my emotion regulation?
Yeah.
And it's a really, really hard, like, kind of lesson to learn around emotion regulation, because so many people are dysregulated. And if we grow up with dysregulation, we then struggle with our own regulation as well, because we have to be taught it. We have to be taught how to self-soothe. And that's why so many people, adults as well, really struggle with that. And they might not use the most healthiest of coping mechanisms, because they don't know how, and it does take a lot of time to actually learn how to healthily emotionally regulate.
It does, and again, that's like a big, massive thing for people to understand, and it was really helpful for me to think that whoever I'm with, an environment am I in, and maybe I know them, maybe I don't, but every person is seeking safety in their
Hmm.
conversations, in their relationships, in their environment. So, if somebody's listening, just a little bit of like knowledge for you and from myself and from Tegan is to say that every person you interact with, they are seeking safety. So you don't know what their triggers are. So if we take people personally, if we allow ourselves to be really sensitive to what somebody is doing or saying or behaving like, and we take it on, and then we're sent in a state of chaos, it's just to take a step back and just to say, okay, this person is also seeking safety, and this might have absolutely jack to do with me personally. So it's just to try and, understand that our relationships can get, and you know, sometimes like when we're looking out on the world, we're looking through this lens, we're seeking safety, and then somebody comes in and we think we're being attacked by them, or they've looked at us a certain way, or something's triggered them. Well, they're also seeking safety and they've got their own stuff going on, and it's not about us personally. So that's a good takeaway that I've learned through doing all the trauma training, is to realize that we're all the same, we're all seeking this safety. But I think
Yeah.
you know, you're completely right with the self-soothing, because one of the most uncomfortable things to do is sit with an uncomfortable inner terrain, that chaos where we feel it and then we just want to do something to get rid of it. So again, those bad behaviors, the habitual behaviors, the toxins, the spending money, these are all things I'm guilty of. Um, Whatever it is, even the addictions
Yeah.
people have, the gambling, the sex, the whatever it is, that is just your nervous system trying to soothe itself, isn't it? It's trying to seek safety.
It is, and the thing with those super mechanisms is they all work in the short term.
Mhm.
Even the ones that aren't healthy,
Mhm.
they have that desired effect of numbing distress in a way.
Mhm.
But it's when they become long term that we can see issues. And I find all the research and literature around coping mechanisms so fascinating, because what we um, what we would deem as in society to be kind of a healthy coping mechanism, or one that's celebrated, is overworking. And you see it so much with people, because it's almost like a badge of honor, isn't it, to say, oh well, I was working till 11 o'clock last night, got up at 5 and started work straight away. And we kind of we're proud of it, really, aren't we? Like we're throwing ourselves into all of this work. But then I sometimes sit and I think, but why is it? Because I'm so guilty of that.
Yeah.
I really do. I'm very guilty of that. But I think it's because, in a way, you kind of, in I suppose, again, numbing that distress, because it can feel really uncomfortable to just sit for an evening and not be productive, and not take life a little bit slower. And I should caveat that by saying I think I used to be that way, with my overworking. I've really tried to work on that overworking and not do it as much, and actually take the time to just be, and to
Yeah.
just slow down a bit. And that's been a real good lesson for me, because there's so much there's so much kind of beauty in a slower pace of life, and there's so much um good there for your health and for your well-being, in just taking that pace down a notch, and noticing the things around you, and
Mhm.
noticing, um actually, wow, that's a really beautiful color sky today. That leaf looks so, you know um so lovely on the tree. And those little moments that we don't, if we're just on to the next thing, on to the next thing, we don't stop and take into consideration all of this beauty around us. And I think there's so much to be said in that, because it can be wonderful.
It can, and focused mindfulness, um, I think is really, really beneficial. I tried mindfulness in the middle of my postnatal depression, and I freaking hated it. I absolutely hated it. But since then, you know, I was just not ready for it. My brain was just on fire, and I just wasn't ready for it. But there were a few takeaways I got from it, because my mind does have to focus. Well, it doesn't have to, it likes to focus. And it was a mindful walk. So focus on every step that you take. And I could do that. And then since then, um, I found that in times of really bad stress, when I've been able to practice mindfulness and really just pinpoint and focus and have a focal point, and it's got nothing to do with what's stressing me out, but it's just to pay attention to, like you say, the intricate details of something. And just to pour everything into that, it gives you space. It does something to your system, probably brings it back into balance because your brain is not going, oh, I need to fix, 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 fix. It's everywhere. It's just focused on this one thing and do it for however long you can, and then bring yourself back and see how you then feel. Because that's where the productivity comes in, isn't it? It's that gap.
Absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right. I feel like when we do stuff like that, it brings us back to equilibrium, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because we aren't kind of thinking about what we need to solve. We're just being. And I had such a beautiful moment last year, and I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life. And I don't know why it happened, and I can't tell you it what it was about at all, really. But it was just I was standing on top of this mountain, absolutely beautiful views, and the wind, it was really windy that day, and the rain was like torrential rain. So it's not the ideal mountain walking weather.
No.
I remember thinking, I felt really emotional. I felt really overcome with emotion. And it was actually on the anniversary, my mum's anniversary. So I wanted to do something nice that day. So I was really emotional. I went up onto this mountain, and I just stood there for a moment, and all of a sudden, it was like the wind stopped, the
Mm.
rain stopped. It was complete silence, and I just looked at the sky, and I just saw this bird fly above me, and I followed that bird with my eyes for probably not even that long. It was probably only a few seconds, but it felt like ages.
Yeah.
And it was the most peace, and it was like my whole body just went into this complete relaxation, complete calmness. And I don't know, that feeling that we get, I suppose, when we're just stood there, and the wind is everywhere, and you just feel calm, even though there's chaos around you. You have this inner peace.
Yeah, I love that. And I got goosebumps as you were saying that because it just reminds me of like when you completely let go, you completely surrender your whole body, your muscles feel it, you're just in like the flow. And then for me, it feels like when you're in that state, you are just connected. There is no separation between you and the divine or you and energy, you whatever you just still in your body in a way, maybe, maybe not. But everything in you just surrenders and allows for that connection to kind of take, you just dissolve into kind of the universal energy really.
You
And
do.
the peace that must reside momentarily, because then the brain goes, computer switches back on, that you just had a little reset moment there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And do you know, the beauty of it is that I can take myself back to that moment,
Yeah.
and I can do it so much now. So when on days when I'm struggling, like you'll think about your mindful walking, I take myself back to that moment of just watching the bird, and actually it felt like I became part of the wind. And I know that sounds like a strange thing to say, but it's as you say, we are connected to everything, every single being, every energy on this earth. We are connected to it, and it's connected to us, and it runs through us. And
Absolutely.
to feel it at that level was just nothing I felt before. And I hope I feel it again. I'm
Mm.
sure I will, but I know that I can take that moment as a real kind of symbol of peace.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. So, what would you say you're having the biggest area of impact right now in your life or in your work?
Well, I think um I think the trauma aspect is big, and I think it's having an impact professionally. So that obviously, the animation is used nationally, and hopefully will be internationally as well, which is great. And I go to a lot of conferences and give talks on trauma and trauma in the justice system,
Yeah.
specifically. So that's all having an impact, um, which is wonderful, and I feel really grateful that it's kind of that my work is out there and it's being shared, and it's doing what it should do, because I want it to help people. I really, really, really want that. But I think a really big impact it's had is that it really made me think about it kind of made me do a lot of inner reflection and made me think about my own experiences of trauma.
Mm.
And it's had a huge impact in my life because I didn't even, even when I was kind of going through the learning processes, I still kind of held some of those beliefs about myself, like, oh, I'm not worthy of this. I'm not worthy of taking up space. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. I'm not, all of these things. And then it kind of made me realize, well, I'm only saying that because these are the stories that I'm holding in my body for a reason. So it's had a huge impact on me personally as well, and it's had a huge impact on me now because I I'm now like, actually no, I deserve to be treated well, and I don't deserve to be kind of snapped at, shouted at, or treated in a bad way. I actually deserve to be treated well. And by doing that, what it's done and what it's shown me is that I can really be an advocate of my own love and my own worth, and know that, we're all inherently human and therefore we're all inherently lovable. It doesn't mean that we're going to love every single person that we meet. But what it does mean, if we have that in our minds, what it does mean is that we can appreciate that they are lovable, that they are human beings too. And when we come from that angle, we start to really appreciate and understand and treat ourselves with the respect that we've needed all along. And I think that's had a huge impact. So
Mm.
although I appreciate the professional impact it's had, and I hope that it continues to grow, and I've got a really exciting year ahead in that
Yeah.
respect. Lots of really cool things that I'll be doing and conferences that I'll be going to, but I hope that it continues to have an impact personally as well, and on the relationships around me.
Yeah, that's amazing. And in the spirit of like International Women's Day, there will be women listening and they may not even have realized that what they've been through has been traumatic because, the kind of landscape has shifted around the definition of trauma, thankfully. And what would you say to somebody? I mean, I think it's not as kind of black and white as this, but when we come across our limiting beliefs, it's usually where we've had some kind of traumatic, in inverted commas, experience, which has thrown the body out of balance into some state of kind of hyper arousal nervous system, or hypo, whatever. The nervous system has gone off kilter. That memory stuck in the body, and we can consider it triggering or traumatic when it happens in the different ways we said. But this is where in everyday life we can realize, okay, well, I really want to do this thing, but I'm absolutely terrified. And it could be like jumping out of a plane. Okay, you got fear of heights, fair enough. That's kind of rational. But it's when women want to step forward, own their space, live an authentic life, find their purpose, align it with a career, do whatever they feel that they want. Like I've said it before, the sunflower kind of rides above the daisies, takes the light, and it's designed to be that way. And there'll be so many women that get to watch this who are designed to be here for a purpose, but just won't. What would you say to somebody listening who's thinking, gosh, what like top tips would you have for them to help them maybe break through a ceiling they have on staying small?
I would say focus on creating a life that you love. Focus on how, and not necessarily so much how you're going to get there,
Mm.
but just focus on um, what your goal is. And if you focus on that and you think every single day you wake up already living that goal. And I know that's hard because if we're not doing that, that can be really, really hard. But if we start to wake up every day and think, I do take up space, and that's okay, that's great, and I do have a successful business, then when it starts to happen, our mind isn't going to be, oh, this isn't right. I'm worried about this. Our mind is going to align to it because we're already putting out those vibrational frequencies that are going to attract those things to us. Um, so I think that's one tip, is to focus on what you want now, not next year.
Mhm.
Actually, you can get these things, and if you focus on it as you have it now, then when it does come to you, that's great. But we're not saying that what we've got now isn't amazing already. It is, but we actually just going into the next step of our journey. And I would say, um, in terms of kind of not thinking about kind of being small, you know, we want people to know their worth and know that they can take up space. It's those everyday moments where we all have this inner critic, I think, don't we? Where we like, oh, you're not good enough, you know, and it's imposter syndrome and all of this sort of stuff. The challenge is to every time that inner critic comes in, turn it into an inner coach.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for your feedback on that. And I know that you're saying that because I've been hurt before in the past and you're not going anywhere. But I understand why you're saying that. So actually now instead we're going to say something nice about the situation rather than thinking I can't do this. There's no facts to say that you can't. It's all in our minds. So actually we turn that around and say, no, I can do it. I absolutely can, you know, conquer the day ahead and I've got this and I have every belief in myself that I can do this because I've survived 100% of all of my bad days previously. So
Mhm.
what's to say that I'm not going to do amazingly on this day? You know, it's kind of those small steps that become a habit. And I think when you start to live authentically, and that's hard because sometimes there's a lot of trauma about who we are. So there's trauma in using our voice, there's trauma in taking up space, there's trauma in thinking the things that we think because we're thinking, oh, everyone's going to judge me. They're going to think that I'm strange if I believe in this stuff or whatever. Actually, you're going to find the people that align to you anyway. So that's okay. But when you start to really show people who you truly are, what you find is you stop worrying about that stuff because you just think, well, why am I worrying? Like, why am I worrying? The script is written, the universe is taking care of it, and I am working at the frequency that I've got,
Mhm.
and that I am, and all that I am, and I'm raising that by doing these practices, by helping myself, and I think that would be really really beneficial for people as well. So it's small little steps that you can take that make such a huge difference, such a
Yeah.
huge difference. And I think the other thing I would say as well is what's really helped me is to write goals down
Mhm.
and include things like taking up space on there. You
Mhm.
know, today I will take up space. Today I will advocate for myself. Today I will show myself that actually I love myself more than anything in the world. Because when you do that, when you put that love into yourself, it comes back to you massively because people will be able to sense that and learn from you and think, well, I can love myself as well because I'm worth that. And when we do that, we show up so much better in our relationships.
We do. It all starts with the self. And this, we need to come back on and we need to talk again more about trauma and how we can help people in that field because it's such it's the biggest area of
It
all
is.
where we can find our authenticity, where we can feel the confidence to succeed and achieve all the things we want by, soothing the inner critic whose voice is it anyway, becoming the inner coach. All of those things you said are just golden nuggets for people to take away with. So it's been an absolute pleasure. And you're an inspiration to me. And the work that you're doing is amazing. And I know you're going over to Canada to share space with some amazing people over there. Gabor Mate, one of my absolute inspirations in the world of trauma, and yours, is going to be on the same stage as you. So you're absolutely killing it,
Thank
Tegan. So, and where you've come from, your challenges, the pain you've experienced, and how that belief you managed to turn it around, believe in yourself, and look at what you're achieving. And you've got so much farther to go, and you're on that path. So that's amazing. So you are a true inspiration for people who are listening to this. So thank you so much for sharing the space with me today. I really appreciate it. I can't wait
you.
to get the story out there.
Thank you so much for the invite. And I must say that you are one of my biggest inspirations as
Thank
well.
you.
Um, I was so grateful and honoured that you asked me to do this call.
Thank you so much, Tegan. Lots of love to you, and I'll speak to you soon.
Yes.
Big hugs. Bye.